Okay. So everyone can see my screen? Can someone confirm?
Yes, Ram.
Hello? Yeah. Okay, DP. Okay. So close this. Mhm. Okay. So in the last class, we discussed uh, like about the API integration, right? So we know what is a side effect. So when we deal with external system and in some way that external system is affecting us, then that is a side effect. So so putting this aside, so um, we have this concept called hooks, right? Hooks. So I wanted to teach you like some basic hooks today. Like we already know use state. Okay. Use state, use effect. What else we know? Anything else? Anyone knows any other built-in hooks in React? Built-in hooks. Every hook will have a purpose. DP, do you know any other hooks?
No, Ram.
No. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. So we'll do one exercise also today to perform. So there are more things. Okay. See, I told you the use state hook concept, but there is lot more to discuss about this. Okay. There is more. I need to tell you. I ha- like I hide some information. I hidden some information about this hook use state. Why? Because you will not understand. But the first time, if I tell everything about hook, this use state hook, then you won't understand. So that's why I'll reveal slowly, slowly. I will reveal more insights about this hook. So use state hook. Why we use this hook? Why we use this hook? Use state. Can someone answer from the team why we use state hook? Because we discussed multiple times about use state hook. At least try. At least you don't tell perfect answer. That's okay. At least try. No one. Then how we can learn more concepts? How we can move forward? I told you many times about this hook. Why we use this hook? DP or
Ram. To
mm,
render the objects, functions, components.
no? That's wrong. I'll ask Triveni. Triveni, what is the use of this hook? Use state hook. Why we use it? Chetan, you're also attending, right? Chetan, rendering for pages changing. No, wrong answer.
Sir, I think to add state variables.
Yeah, to add state to the component. Okay. If I use, I'll tell you, like we have one component. Okay. Like let's say we have one component here and another component here. And let's take a state here. Like we have one state. This state variable is not visible outside. You cannot use that state outside in this component. What is state? State is nothing but a changing, okay, a changing object w- within the component itself. Okay. So to be very clear, every you just remember this line. Okay. Every state will have its own, sorry, every component will have its own state. That's it. If you remember, you will get all the concept of state in your hook. Sorry, in your mind. This is very important line that everyone needs to remember. Every component will have its own state. See, let's take a component. Let's assume this button component, right? So what will be the button states? Like on, off, right? The button can either be on or off. So that state is only belongs to this button component. And for other components, we'll have other states. Okay. State is a object. See, just learn something, at least a small piece from React every day. With consistency, if you learn, you will easily get React. Actually, I'm teaching you React from like past 15 days. Okay. I would have completed all the syllabus from by this time if I teach for other people. Okay. React use state. What is use state? Use state is a hook that let you add state to functional components. Okay. So this is the like the definition. Like you will add state to functional components. So we don't use hooks in class components that I already told you. Only functional components only we will use hooks. Okay. And so this is the syntax you already know. Like we use this hook, we call this use state hook. We pass initial value and it will return two things. One is the current state and the setter function to update that state. Okay. So initial value is the default value you want for that state. And set state will be a function to update the state. It is a function. This second argument, this is function. And this one, this state is nothing but the current value of the state. Already gave you this counter example, increment, decrement counters. So when I click this, it increments. So first initially it will be zero. Okay. So I'll give one example, like counter. Already we did, right? We did this exercise. If no one answers, how we can learn and move to next concepts? Next concepts will be more in depth. What is that? Okay. So I'll create one component called counter.jsx. So here I'll create a component counter. Okay. So this is a counter component. So I export this component, export default count to sign out. Okay. So what I did, just I created one function component and exporting that component, right? Here I'm exporting that component. So here we just call, oh, still I'm getting Copilot. Why? Let me restart this. Hmm, Not signed out. Okay. So here, what I will do, I have to use state. I have to use that use state hook, right? Use state. Why this React people named this hook as use state? Every hook will have this prefix use. Okay. So here I will import that hook from React. Use state from React. I'll just import it. So you're calling this hook, right? So you have to provide initial value to this. Okay. First I provide 0. Now I'll take a variable and here this use state, when you call this function, use state function, it will return two things. Okay. One is the setter function and see one is it will see here you see returns a stateful value and a function to update it. You understand this line? Returns a stateful value. So it will return. So here I'll use count and a setter function, set count. So this why we add this set because it is a setter function. So this is prefix, it is a good practice to prefix with set. Okay, count, set count. You have another variable, toggle, set toggle, something like that. Okay. So how you name your variable in the similar fashion, you name your setter function. That's all. So now you can, on this left hand side, what we have these two things, right? We can use this now, this current state and setter function in the JSX. So I'll just return some JSX like a div. And in this, I'll show a paragraph or not paragraph. I'll just show H1 so that it will be clear. And I'll use that count variable, the state, count state. So what is a state? State means it will change. Okay. It will change. At one point, the state will be 0. And at another point, it will be 1 or it will be 2. It will change. State will change. The count variable will change. Okay. So here, I will also add one button to increment that state. So when I click this button on click, I execute one arrow function here. So I return this set count. I call this set count and pass the new state. So how the new state should be count plus 1. We want to increment by 1. Okay. So whenever I click the count, first count will be 0 because here I gave the initial value 0. So the default will be 0. So the count will be 0. But whenever I click this button, the count will be 0. 0 plus 1, 1. Now what will be stored in the count variable? 1. So when I click um, when I click the button again, so count will be 1, right? So 1 plus 1, 2. So in that fashion, same fashion, like 2 will be stored in this count variable. Every time this count changes, the displayed count here in the H1 will be changed by default. Okay. So this is very simple. I think you don't think this is a rocket science. It's very simple. Just 3 lines of code. Everything is similar. This import statement, creating a component, exporting, everything is same. But what is changing here? This state line, fifth line, and this ninth and 10th line. Is it hard to understand these 3 lines of code? No, right? So I'll just add this counter in the app component and just use that counter component here. Let me comment this also. So now I'm using counter component here. So let me run this. Open. See, this is a 0. Count value is 0 now. I can also show you the state, how it changes. Here, no. Let me open this in another window. Yeah. Here, components, counter component, state. What is state now? 0. When I click, state changes to 1. So this 1 is applied here in the H1. So when I click, it changes. I increment, it changes. The state is changing, right? Now, for example, if I use this counter again, I can reuse the component. That is the beauty of component-based architecture. So I can reuse this component, this piece of component, I can reuse by just naming the tag here like this. So when I save again, see now we have two counter components, right? So this is first counter, first 11th line and 12th line. We use two counters. Two are, we created only one component, but we created two instances of the same component. Okay. So now if I click this increment, what happens? If I click this increment button, the first button, what happens? Can someone answer what happens when I click this? Only this 0 will increment or both the zeros will increment?
Separate, separate. No, both are increment.
Who said both are increment?
Me only.
Me only means you don't have name, huh?
Naresh, Naresh.
Okay. Why both will increment?
Because we,
Only, see, I told here already this line.
okay. Actually,
Every
I did not listen that code.
okay,
Now
no
only
worries.
came to hostel, Ram.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I told is every component will have its own state. Okay. So when you create two objects, right? So every object will have its own state. So here I created one component and I'm creating instance. Okay. When you write a tag like this, okay, it will create separate states for separate components. Okay. So I'll show you that also. Like here, where is that? Yeah, here. So we have two counters now. This is counter and this is second counter. Two counters. Two same components, but I am instantiating it as different. Two instances of the same counter component. So this first one, when I click this button, the state changed. But you see the second counter state still 0. Okay. So what is happening here? Like every component, it will have its own state. Okay, it will have its own state variable count. I think you understood the concept, everyone. So in this way, we will use that state because this is a simple example counter. Every entry level candidate will do this example, but we have to do more in this. Okay, so I will tell you now another example. So here, what is the value I have provided? What is type of this value? Can someone tell what is the type of this? 0. What is type of 0? How many types we have in JavaScript? Data types. Hey guys, why simple basic question? Why you can't answer? What is type of 0? Okay, let me ask you like this. What is this? What is type of this?
String.
What is type of 0? What is
Number.
0?
Number.
Number. Yeah, that's it. Don't overcomplicate, don't think
No,
complexity. Yeah, I'm
actually,
not
no,
telling
Ram.
you.
No, I have speaker, but my earphones are stucking. That is the reason.
Okay, okay. Cool, but I'm not only pointing to you, I'm asking everyone. Okay. Everyone's earphones got stuck, no, right? But I'm not getting answers for simple, silly, basic question I'm asking. If you can't answer this simple thing, what like how I will get interest to tell more information? See, I am here to share my knowledge, but I should get that interest, okay, to share you. If you are not responding or if you are not answering simple questions, how I will share my knowledge to you all? This is only basic question I asked, like 0. What is type of 0? Number. In elementary school children, if I ask what is 0, it will tell a number. And what is this? String. What is this? Boolean, right? So number, string, Boolean. So what I'm trying to tell you is not only numbers, we can provide anything the state, into the state. We can store anything in the state. We can store object, or arrays. On a side note, array is also an object. Okay. So we can store all this. Did I give you any example storing object and array before? No, right? So I will give now. I'll give you example how you will store and manage that. This is very important. So always you will not only store numbers, strings, booleans. You will also store arrays and objects, and you have to manage that state. Let's say you have some drop down value. So how you will handle that drop down value, right? So okay. So let me take one example: username and password login form. So not in this component, I'll create another component for you. So I will create another component. I'll just comment out this. I'll create another component now. This is related to the form. Okay. So I'll create a new file called login form component. Guys, I wanted everyone to type in the chat that you are listening. Let's see how many of people are listening. Just type yes. Yes. How many people are listening? Yes. I'm getting a doubt whether you are joining the class and putting the phone aside. That's why I'm asking you. Don't mind. 6 out of 11. I'm the one. Okay, eliminate 2 people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, 2 people are not listening then. Okay. Okay, no worries. Um, Thank you guys. Thank you. So where are we now? Okay, we will create one login form and we will handle the state. Okay, so of that login form, the state of that input buttons and everything. So I'll create a login form. This is a login form component. For everything, you create one component. Hey, my shift is not working. Okay, so login form. Every time you do the same thing, export default login form. You create a function and you export default that function and you just return a form like this. Okay, you have this form tag in HTML. Just use that form. Even though you need not to use this also, it's okay. If you have form, don't use it. Like if you don't want to, I'll tell you why. But now, so let us take this div and take 2 inputs like this. 2 inputs. Okay. So first, let's just have instead of 2 inputs, let's take more inputs. 3. So you take one button called submit. Okay. So this button is submit. So now just adding names here for understanding purposes. Username. Okay. And another name, password or email. Okay. Let's put email and password like this. We have 3 input boxes and one submit button. Let me add a line break here so that every input element will be in next line. So now I will use I haven't write any state here. I'm not using any state until this point of time. Okay. So I'll use that login form here in the app component. Login form. I imported that login form. So login form I have imported and I'm using it here so that it will come here. Okay. So I'll add placeholder for just displaying uh, that same thing again. Placeholder, username, placeholder, email. What does this placeholder do? Sorry.
Dummy duplicate name. It like enter the name.
No, it
It will
not
show.
duplicate. It label. It labels the input element. Okay, you can write separate label, but this will be added inside the um input element. Like it will be as a placeholder. When you start typing, this will disappear. Okay, so password. So here you see username, email, and password. Let me take one more line break. So we can write CSS, but I don't care here about CSS now. Just I wanted you all to understand the concept of state. So now when I click submit, below I want to show the username, password, and email below here in the empty space. That is my target. Understood? So how I will show this? So how we will handle state? So we want one state. So I don't want to use different states. Okay, like this, like username, comma set username. So first I'll show how you will use different states like this. So I take three state variables. You can use how many use states all you want. You can use how many also. N number of use states you can use. Email, set email. Okay, is equal to use state and password. First I'll not go with password. First let's just only go with username and email. Then when we mix everything into single state, at that time we will also use password. Okay. So now we have username and email. Okay. So initial value, I'll give empty string initially because there will not be any value. So now how you will handle changing of this state. So when you type this, so how you will get the value. So for example, if I type something here inside the username, so I'm typing something, right? But when I'm clicking the submit button, how should I capture this SDFS, this one? How should I capture this text from this element, from this input? So that's why I have to capture that and store it in the respective state variable. That's it. So when I change, okay, when this when user types this, every time, every single character, when the user types into this input, one on change listener, we will trigger this on change listener. So on change listener, what it will do, it will listen to the events when the input is changed. Whenever you type single character, then you trigger a on change listener event. From that event, you capture and set username. You use that setter function. So event dot target dot value. So if you don't understand this, that's okay. Event dot target dot value. I will tell you when I teach you DOM, document object model. Okay. So now event dot target dot value means event which where the event is created. This target means this input element, this complete element. And what is the value of that element? Whatever the user types, right? That will be the value. What is target here? Target is nothing but input element, this element only. Okay. So now here I'll use one variable, one property value and assign this username here. So, okay. So now how many properties I have used for this input element? Name, right? Name.
Three
This for
properties.
our placeholder. value. See this value where it is coming from, this username where it is coming, value, username, this one, this state variable assigned to the value. And when I change the, when I type something in the input element, this function gets executed every time. When I type single character, this function executes. From the event, it will take the value, whatever the target element. What is the target element where this event is being triggered, on change event? From the input element itself, that event is getting triggered. So event dot target dot value. So this value is nothing but this input's value. Whatever I type at that point of time, I'm taking that value, capturing that value, and setting, okay, setting to this, sending to this setter function. So what this setter function will do, it will update this username. That updated value again it will pass here. Simple. If you wanted me to show now on the fly, I can also use that here. I'll use one h1 or h2, and I will use that username here. So whenever I change how the state is getting updated, you see now. So now in the component, sorry, I have to open here. Okay. So here in this login form, you have the state here. This is username and this is email. So when I type in the username like A, B, C, D, E, F, right? How the state is changing, you see here, this username state. So when I type each single character, when I type a character, this function gets executed on change listener, whatever I give the anonymous function here, this gets executed. So it will, what it will take the value. Okay. What it will take the current value of this target element, and this value is sent to this state variable, and that value is passed again here. So again, I'm here using two twice to show that here how it is changing. This is where the importance of state. Everyone will do that counter example. Okay, but this kind of examples you have to work. You change the state by typing when the user types here. So let's say I have typed my name, then automatically that changed. Okay. I don't know how to auto turn off this auto complete off. Yeah. You see, when I type some other name, it is changing. The state is changing. You can see the below also here. Here, just have a look how this is changing. Click this. Yeah, username, right? You understood. You got the concept. How you will do the same thing? You similarly add the same on change listener and everything. Same thing you add to this email. So now here the value will be email instead of username. And what will be the setter function name? Set email. That's it. Now, if I type email, when I change the email, right? Not working. Why? Value email. Why it is not working? Any error? Can we get one error? It's changing an uncontrolled input. Mhm. Everything is same, right? We did not use anything wrong. Okay, working fine. What happened to this? Hmm. Now no error. Name, email, email, set email. What is wrong with this? Everything is same, right? Input, name, placeholder is good, value. Let me restart the server. Why? We did not do anything wrong. Okay. So I haven't added here. Okay. Here to, to show that I have to add email here. So, okay. Now it is good. So if I type email, I'm getting. Okay. Let's type ram@gmail.com. That state is changing. And if I type my name, you can change the state of that email on the fly. Everyone understood this? Everyone understood this?
Yes, Ram.
Okay. Okay. So just we did the same thing. How what we applied to this, we did the same. So for password also we can do that. But now let's skip this. Let's go with the two only. So now so here I'm using two variables, right? Email and username, right? And handling two different things here. When I on change this, so event dot target dot value, what it will be the value of this input. Same here, the value of this input because target is this one now. So now I want to use only one variable. So let me define like this. I want one object like this. Okay, user info, this object like this. So now inside this is object. Okay, in JavaScript, if you write curly brackets, then that is object. You need not to create a class and create object. See, if in other languages, more maybe you will create a class and you create objects, but here you directly create an object like this. I'm not sure, but you just if you have two curly brackets, then it is an object. Okay. So here in this user info, I want to take that username, empty value, and password. Sorry, not password, email. Email. If you see in JavaScript, if you use double quotes or single quotes, anything is fine. Okay. You can use double quotes. It's your choice. It's your preference. You can use double quotes or single quotes, anything in per string. Okay. So this is one thing. And I don't want this two different state variables now. But instead, I want a single variable like this const user info, comma, set user info. See how I am naming things based on this user info and set user info. I'll call the same use state hook again, but instead let us take this as an initial value. Okay, initial value. Now I will pass this initial value here. Now I don't need this two variables. Okay, now I don't need this. Just one variable. So initial value, what is initial value? This object, right? So instead of having this object like this, I'll directly pass in place of initial value instead of assigning it. That's it. What I did, I passed a object to this initial as an initial state to this use state hook. Now I have only one user info and set user info, one variable current state and setter function. So now what I should do, instead of direct username, now I have to use user info dot username. Why? Because how this state will be, because now we are storing an object in the state. Okay, we are not um, storing a number or boolean or a string. We are directly storing an object in the state. So how this user info will be like this now, username and email like this, right? So so this username, how you will access this username? User info dot username by using that dot notation. Object dot property name. Okay. So in the similar fashion, here, sorry, here instead of calling set username, now I will call set user info. And here instead of using user info, I'll use user info dot username. You have to write like this, user info dot username. Here also user info dot email. Why? Because we are using an object, right, in the state, right? Understood, everyone? Why we are changing the below code? Because here we are now using only single object, single state, and storing an object of data. See, now we have two variables, two information, two inputs only. But what if we have 100 inputs? You will create 100 state variables? No, right? You have to handle within that single state variable. Okay? In reality, you will not have 100 inputs. At least you will have 10 to 12 inputs if you are collecting some information from the student or somewhere. So you will collect like 10 to 15 inputs. So at that time, it will be useful. So here, instead of set email, I will use, sorry, instead of set username, use set user info. And here, set user info, same variable, two times I am using. And here, so now what I have to pass? Should I pass a string now? So the value that is entered in this, no, I have to pass an object, right? I have to pass an object. See, what object I have to pass, I will tell you. Okay. So as of now, just remove this event dot target dot value. So what you will pass, you will not get a clue, not get any clue what you will pass to this, right? So what you will do, you just copy the existing information like this, existing object, just paste here. Okay. And now, what is this? What you want to change? Username, right? Instead of empty, you assign that event dot target dot value. That's it. Here also, instead of that, you just pass an object, email, and event dot target dot value directly. Previously, we have direct string, but here now we are passing an object to that uh, user info. You understood this? No. Yes, no. Understood why we are doing like this? Because this
Yes,
is
Ram.
object, right? Because this is object. So that's why you have to pass object into this setter function. So now let's observe what is happening here now. Username is not defined. Where name login from 41. Okay, here also we have to change user info dot username, user info dot email like this. Okay, now we are good. So now when I type, you see the state, okay? You understand the state now. What is this? Hmm. You see the state now? Email and username, okay? So when I type username is there. But what happened? What happened to the state? Where is my email? When the component is loaded, we have the email empty and username is also empty. But when I type the username, email is getting disappeared. See, there is no email, only username. Okay. See, when you change the email, now you see the username getting disappeared. This is the issue, right? You will not see this kind of issue when you write state in the class component. But why you are getting this in the function component? Why this kind of issue you are getting? Because you are passing only that respective object key, right? So you're passing a new object. This object again storing here. Does this object have email? No, right? This object have username? No. So why I have to pass username and email? See here, why I have to pass? Why I have to pass email? Because I am not changing email, right? Why I have to pass email? Here, why I have to pass username? No, I don't want to pass. I don't want to pass this information because I am only touching username here. Here I am only touching or changing the username and sending. Okay. So now you see, if I send like that, if I change the username like this, username is there, but email is also there, but it is empty. This is expected. But when I type again, now username is empty and email is there. You see? Because I am sending empty value here. That's why. So instead of that, what you will do, you will spread. There is in ES6, you have something called spread operator or rest operator, you call it as. Use this notation dot dot dot. Okay. I'll tell you how you will spread all the existing. This dot 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 user info. You write like this. Here also dot 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 user info like this. So now our issue is cleared. So what does this do? It will spread all the existing properties of that object here. See what other properties are there? Email only, right? Currently. So it will add email with the value that is already stored in this user info variable. And explicitly, it will also show the username with that value that I am changing. Okay. It is hard for you to understand, I know, but at least now try to understand that. So what happens is, for example, you will see here now in action. So I type my username Ram. Okay, got it? Ram. So now when I type email ram@gmail.com, when I type email, see both are there. Username is there and email is there. Why? Because when I type email, what I'm doing here, the value that's there in the email, I'm storing in the email and I'm spreading the existing user info object here. What is user info object already stored? This object user info state already stored this username. Except this username, I'm explicitly changing this. If I don't give this email here, right, it will spread everything, both it will spread. Like if I change this, sorry, it's not at all changing, okay? Because the value itself is not changing. So I think you understood. So now you can handle both the state changes. Every time when you do a state change, you will do like this. So I'll send this example to you. See, now you can also, instead of changing directly, for example, instead of showing directly, um, you can directly show. Okay, when I click, okay, when I click, so now when I click submit, I want to show a div here like this. So when I click this, I want to show something. Okay, so handle submit. I'll write one function for this. Handle submit. Handle submit. So when I click submit, what I will do, I'll take one state variable. Okay. So user info, comma, set show user info. So here I'll use the state again. First I will make it false. Now here, mm, when I this handle submit is there, right? So I'll also let's not to over complicate. Here only I will change the state. Okay, here only I will change the state. Like what I will do, I'll set that show user info to true. Okay, so now in this div, I'll conditionally render based on that show user info. If show user info is true, I will show this div like this. If it is false, then I'll show empty or null, whatever it may be. You need not to show anything. So now I'll just use this inside this none comment. So now what happens? This is conditional rendering. Okay. So when I click this submit button, what is happening? It will toggle this. It will just make this false variable to true. That's it. Nothing. Just I'm changing the variable. When I click submit, then this becomes true. Set user info becomes true, and this div is visible in the screen. That's it. So here I type username. Okay, Ram Charan, and I type password. Sorry, email ID. So when I click submit, see, let's see, observe the states. See, this state is true. Show user info true. How this become true? When I click this, I'm setting the state. Instead of typing, see now that also changes. Got it? Everyone understood this? Example? Hello? I see only DP talking. Where is that? Hello?
Yeah, yes, Tom.
Yes, Ram.
Okay. So everyone understood this. Any doubts? Any questions? Because I only told you the use state. That's it. I'm sharing this component to you. It might be helpful. Check the code. Try to understand this code, what I'm doing here.
Ram, unchange is a attribute or otherwise it is an event.
Change is a property.
Mm.
It is a property that you can also call it as event listener or something. Okay. So
Okay.
you write on change property, and this function is the listener function. Okay. the inside one, whatever the function from here to here, this anonymous function, this is the listener. So you can call it as event listener, on change event. So when on it, so you can bind events to this property. So I'll tell
Okay.
you the difference. In
Okay.
HTML, in HTML, you call it as attribute, but here you call it as a property. There is a more, there is very different difference between attribute and property. Okay. When I taught you, like when I teach you the HTML, I will I will say that this is an attribute. But when I speak in terms of React, this will not be an attribute. This is a property. Attribute will not change, but property will change. Okay. So, for example, here I provide a value and I'm changing the value of that value property, right? So here this value is getting changed every time. But attribute means the default value is called attribute. So whatever, see now placeholder is there. This placeholder, I provide some value. Okay. So then you can call it as a attribute. In HTML, all these are attributes, but in JavaScript or in React, in Angular, don't call them as attributes. You call them as properties. Properties will change. Attributes will not change. Attributes will be the same. Whatever the value you provide first, that will be the value until the last. But for properties, the value will change.
Okay, Ram.
Hmm. So I think everyone understood this state example, login form, how you will handle the state of the input element and storing it in the state. I also told you how you store numbers, booleans. Here we have boolean example. In the previous counter, we stored 0. And in the login form, currently we are storing object. You can also store arrays. So all these concepts we will mix, guys. Okay. So here, why there is no need for me to show this, but why I show you? Because yesterday or day before yesterday, we learned the conditional rendering logic. Okay. So now everything is in the state, right? Like the username, email is in the state. Now you can, for example, when you click on this submit, you can also make a API call, right? Like this. Like you call a function here, login function. Yeah, like this login function. So here you can also, when this button is clicked, what happens? This login function is getting called, right? So here uh, you write that login function, like login, and you can make a Axios call or anything. Okay, you can make like this axios.get some URL you will give, right? And in the body or headers there will be something. Like you can send that username and email like this. Username, you point to this user info dot username. So this information you are sending uh, to the API. Okay. So email user info dot email. So everything, if you have that in the state, and you can send that to an API dot, then you will get a response. Yesterday I told you, right? All this response dot, like once you get the response, let's say you got the response, so you just store the response or whatever you want you can do with that response like this. You can also write dot catch, but I'm not going to into that deeper levels. Like error, you get error, you just console log error, something like that. So now what I'm doing here, first I store the state information, the whatever the value that is there in the input, I'm setting it into the state and using this state variables. So when I click this button, already the user made change in this input. Like user typed username, he typed email, then he click this button. When button is clicked, this function gets executed. Already, when changing, we are already storing that information in this state, this user info object. That user info, we are sending it to the API, that information. Nice and clean, right? Okay. So this is reference purpose. I told you how you will make an API call by sending. So you are using multiple concepts here. You are using state concept and networking concept, that is making a HTTP request. And what else you're using? You're using conditional rendering here. All the concept that we learned before. Okay. I think this class is going too much. Tomorrow we'll discuss another hook called use effect hook. Like most probably by this month and I'll complete all the hooks. But you understood the concept, right? So I'll tell you some of the basic hooks in React, um, like use state, use effect, use context. Okay, use context, use ref, use callback, use memo first, use callback. Okay, so these are some of the basic hooks in built-in hooks in React. You can also create your own hook. Use my hook, something like this. You can create your own hooks. So that one advanced concept. I don't want to go that. I'll easily explain all these hooks for you. Like I forgot, we also have one more hook called use reducer hook. Okay. So this hook you will understand if you understand Redux. Redux is a state management library. We also need to discuss that in next classes. Everyone clear? Any doubts? Any doubts? I'm going to wrap this call. Before that, I just wanted to ask any doubts.
No, Ram.
Anyone? Any doubts? Let me show the code. Any doubts in this? What we are doing? Everyone is following, right? Because don't miss this simple steps. No one will teach you. You have to do a lot of research and understand. Watch a lot of videos. You'll not get. I'm I'm clearly explaining each and every piece of this code by typing. See, why I'm creating this function component, because from the scratch, if I create, you will understand, right? See, let's say I want to create a component like header component or something, right? So I can directly use the snippet. It will directly create. But am I using that snippet? No. Why? Because you wanted to see that each single letter I type. You have to observe that. So that's why I'm not going with shortcuts. So I manually typed all this for you. I can also do copy paste. A lot of people, like while explaining, they just go there. Previously, like showed you this chat GPT example. So I can also directly just click it and just add it here for like this. I did not do that. Why? Because if I type single character, then you will get. I also do some mistakes while typing. So that from that mistakes, I learn something. But if you do copy and paste, right, you will not do mistakes. You will never learn. You have to learn from your mistakes. Okay. So that's why I'm not doing, like I just copy this code. I can show it this example, but I did type that manually from the start. I have a lot of options to show you the code, but I'm not here to show the code. I wanted you to understand in the very basic level. Got it? Okay. Any questions? I'm asking again and again. Any questions? At least know if you're not having. Naresh and DP only responded. No one is responding. What happened? Why? I'm putting all my efforts. Just okay. Thank you guys. See you in the next class. I'll tell you about use effect hook. I hope all of you understood use state hook, why we are using it, and how many how many data types we can store in that, all those things. Okay, we'll see tomorrow. Thank you. Bye.